Hi, it's Shannon O'Brien back at Meadowview Hospital to discuss a change management implementation plan. The IT leadership team at Meadowview Hospital has determined that they would like to develop a change management structure for their organization. They would like to enact policies and procedures that would help mitigate risks when IT changes occur in the future. This decision is a result of documentation change that caused a loss of EHR functionality and a gap in clinical care for respiratory patients. By developing an effective change management process for the organization, the IT leadership team can be assured that any future IT changes will not be at risk for repeating this error. In the presentation, we'll be discussing Meadowview Hospital's recommended change management policies and procedures, as well as details on change control meetings, so who should be involved and what should occur at these meetings, as well as the best way to communicate these changes to your clinical end users. Historically, Meadowview Hospital has lacked support surrounding their clinical systems in place. About a month ago, the CEO made a push to improve their clinical support system structure and begin the process of providing electronic lab results to make the organization more aligned with its strategic goals. So while there was improvement since that implementation, there are still key change management processes that are missing that are really needed to scale the health IT functionality of this organization. So before we embark on the journey of implementing and managing change, a proper assessment for needs should occur. On the screen here, you'll see Johnson & Waterhouse's recommendations for questions to ask before a change is implemented. So really, who raised the change and the reason for the change, as well as from a business perspective, evaluating the return and risks involved in the change, as well as resources that are required to deliver the change effectively. And lastly, the responsibilities and relationship between this change and other changes within the organization. Once it's determined that a change is needed, a change request form should be submitted to the IT team. So on the screen here, you'll see project manager's change request form template. This is something that can be very tailored to meet your organizational needs. This is mainly to ensure that you have the proper resources allocated to effectively implement the change requested. Based off of Miller's process for change management, there are 5 critical steps that it should occur to successfully implement and support change. So on the screen here, you can see the steps in descending order, with change management being just a broad term to describe the process of really just guiding the determined organizational change into fruition. So for Meadowview specifically, there's an opportunity to really augment elements of the process to meet the current needs of the IT department and the organization as a whole. Really allowing Miller's 5 critical steps to act as a sequential guide can really help unify leadership, as well as come up with a collaborative strategy that will provide both structured change as well as meeting the business need of the organization. So as an example for how you can tailor these steps to meet the organization, is preparing your organization for the upcoming change that can be drafted based off the communications channels that you've had in place for your most recent EHR solution, as well as how the change management process is designed and embedded within the company culture and practices is really truly dependent on the employees and leadership team at Meadowview. On the screen, we see Meadowview Hospital's guide in creating policies and procedures to support their intended change management process. While each category can be altered, as we've mentioned, to fit the system-wide goals of the organization, the general idea is similar organization to organization. Change, especially IT change, should be planned. So in order to maintain consistency and diversity surrounding your IT plan, endorsing a change management committee can provide a clear and concise design to build off of. Requests for changes should be handled formally and consistently to ensure that the appropriate resources are allocated to the correct teams. So as we've seen in the previous screens, drafting a template for requests for changes can really help organize committees and guarantee that gaps and barriers are recognized sooner. Once the change is approved, implementation can begin. It's imperative to conduct a risk assessment using a performance tool to document any high-risk changes and ensure that a clear risk mitigation plan is in place to ensure that existing clinical workflows are not disrupted in the process. Before the go live occurs, it's important that your staff is adequately trained in the operational changes. This can be done based off of MetaView's access to resources and the difficulty of the change. Training modules are an excellent option that are low barrier in regards to staff resources. However, there should be some type of test environment that is maintained where end users can be exposed to the EHR solution. It is important that not only adequate training is provided to clinical end users to ensure efficiency to support current workflows, but also that training should also match the existing culture and needs to help with buy-in regarding the adoption of the change. Lastly, embedding an evaluation tool that can ensure that there's an accurate gauge of efficiency of the product can really help identify gaps and barriers and allow for improvements in real time. Identifying some key performance indicators that are required to be tracked for a given period of time on a public platform can also allow collaboration and recognition of areas and tactics that can improve the solution. The Information Technology Infrastructure Library, also known as ITIL, is a set of best practices for change management that can aid IT professionals in rollouts as well as prioritization of changes to ensure that customer satisfaction is not disturbed and that the system is still effectively delivering services. So given the formal processes associated with change management, it can be really difficult to clearly navigate the needs and expectations of change. However, the ITIL will help with a best practice solution. The benefits of implementing a thoughtful change management process are really assuring that the impact of these proposed changes are evaluated for their benefits and their risks. Prioritizing changes can really help allocate those resources, and requiring that all changes be thoroughly tested with a backout plan in place if the current state of the deployment fails can help catch any potential risks associated with the project. And you want to also make sure that a configuration management system is updated to keep everybody abreast of what the changes are occurring. A change control meeting, which is typically led by the change advisory board, members of the change management team, and a representative from IT, can act as a space for potential ongoing and completed projects within the organization. So this will be an opportunity on a collaborative effort to approve any changes regarding any projects, as well as ensure that the roles and responsibilities are clearly defined amongst the team. We can MetaView has the ability to track any of the proposed changes. We would recommend a platform similar to a SharePoint, and decisions will be discussed and resolved by a group consensus. So based off of the need, need for the project, these meetings can occur on a weekly or even daily basis. And with that, the control meeting should have a curated agenda to help the project moving forward. And with that, a change control process roadmap can help align the vision for the team. So here is an Asana example of the 5 steps of a change control process. So you have initiation, assessment, analysis, implementation, and closure. As we've seen with change management, a lot of this is a guidebook and allowing your organization to tailor these elements to meet your current culture is going to help really move the needle in the right direction and create buy-in amongst your staff. Communicating change is extremely important. During the planning and assessment phases of change management, it should be identified what departments and which users are going to be affected by the change. Before the change occurs, there should be a level of education regarding what is changing and how it can potentially affect end user workflow and reporting. The earlier you involve end users in change management, the more buy-in you will receive during implementation, as well as meaningful use of your EHR solution. Communications really should be ongoing regarding the depth of that IT change. Examples are newsletters, work groups, as well as training modules that we've mentioned. That can foster a cyclical information loop that provides communication out to end users, as well as elicit feedback, preventing any clinical disturbances and improving workflow processes. A similar tool really should be used to report any issues using the solution. So when we say that cyclical loop, having a formal way to document any feedback or issues is important to ensure the health of your EHR solution. So to sum up what we've discussed today about change management and designing a successful change management process is following these steps below. We really should be developing a change request template that's specific to the needs of MVH's IT department, as well as curating specific change management policies and procedures that really fit the current culture and organization goals. We want to make sure that we're providing space for change control meetings to occur on a weekly, daily basis if needed, as well as effectively deliver any changes to clinical end users as to what is best for your organization. So based off that, these are my resources or references that were used during this presentation, and I welcome any feedback or questions associated.